about women, significant women. But the passage in Acts, written by Luke, remember, starts with Paul having a vision. Any people here who had visions in their life? Don't be shy. None of you? None of you have had a deep inner sense or knowing or something that's come to you? Not people of Irish roots here? A bit more common with that community. My grandmother had that gift. She married a Methodist minister, hence United Church. But I think in her heart she always remained an Anglican. But she would start setting the table after Sunday service for somebody. And my grandfather would say, "Maya, what are you doing?" Or words to that effect. And she'd say, "Well, so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so are coming." Well, did they call? No. But they showed up. So there is something. Well, they want to share, I don't know if vision, but a certain overwhelming something that happened to me. And in regards to a very important lady that I remember with great fondness. I have shared about Ethel before. Ethel Date. Ethel Date was in her 90s. Her family had immigrated from Britain, and her kids were living in Victoria, so away. And she was diagnosed with terminal cancer. Not getting long. But they didn't want to tell her. And I had a meeting with her one time, just a visit, and she said, "You never done this." She always called me Douglas. She said, "I know I'm dying, but I shouldn't like to die later." And so I said, "Ethel," I said, "well, if at all possible, I will be there with you." I'm very fond of her. She had the clearest blue eyes that I've ever seen. Not the violet of Elizabeth Taylor, but very close to that. Blue. And she could recite 1 Corinthians 13, 1 to 13, off by heart in the KJV, King James Version. Well, she was a visit to Providenceville, and I guess February, March, I caught the flu. And so I wasn't thinking about Ethel. And it was better, and one Friday, it was a Friday, a group of us, there was a restaurant, maybe there still is on Broadview, that did for breakfast a smoked trout. And so a group of us clergy went. It was a serious clergy meeting to have smoked trout. In the middle of it, something came over to me and said, "Go see Ethel." I hadn't thought about it. I hadn't planned it. It wasn't something that really was on my consciousness. I was just glad to be feeling better. But it was so strong, it said, "Go and see Ethel." So I did, and she wasn't in her room. And I thought, oh dear. And I asked the nurses, and she said, "No, she's in the solarium. She wants to be in the sun this morning." I thought, thank goodness. And I went there, and she turned, she says, "Oh, Douglas, how good to see you," and died. No one will ever convince me that that wasn't a vision, or a communication, or the divine, the experience. And I hope that opens you to be able to share your experiences, because we don't like to talk about them in this scientific age, so we think. But they happen. The Spirit still moves amongst us. Often a gift of women. In times past, they got called a nasty word beginning with W and bird. But they had an intuition and an insight. Hopefully we're starting to see the seers now, and all who have that experience of the holy. It's not something that you can set out systematically, but it still happens. Paul has a vision to go to Macedonia, and to go right away. There's an urgency to this passage. He's needed right now. They they don't even stop at Mykonos on the way. They go straight to Macedonia. And you get the route that they take. It's saying, yes, this was, they know the ocean, they know the area, they go straight to Macedonia. And so they're preaching, and they know that the Jewish community gathers by the river outside the town. It's a Roman town. We're told that quite clearly. And there is the woman Lydia. Now, some versions say she invites them back to her house, but the sense of house in that passage, that's why I translated it villa. To say that she dealt with purple cloth would indicate that A, she was a businesswoman, very unusual at that time, given the role of women in Hellenistic Roman society, and that she had great wealth, purple cloth, what the emperor, what the nobles, what the royals wore. She was a merchant in this. And she's a person of faith that's open. And in this passage, she is the first European Christian. Many miss that. So, the first Christian in Europe, as we now know it, is Lydia. It parallels some of the gospel stories that the first of the faithful on Easter Sunday were the women at the tomb. Again, there's an aspect that somehow faith reaches women, and women are more open to faith than some of the fellows. Lydia eagerly accepts, seeks baptism right then and there. I hope it was later in the year, otherwise the mountain stream could be a little cold. But she accepts, baptized, and then opens her heart, her home, her life to the apostles. If she believes they find her worthy, do they find her worthy? Luke is writing this, perhaps aware that the early faith is growing by the action of women. I'm amazed this passage survived, given the editing over the centuries. What other ones were lost, what other stories didn't make it because of a patriarchy and wanting to keep control on things. But this one does. And it lifts up an uncommon person. Have you seen the film about the widow Clicquot and how she became a dominant businesswoman and really brought champagne to how we know it now as the great celebration and festival, in often cases royal drink, of women who lead. Not too long after this passage, we come to the Edict of Nantes, when Constantine, having had a vision, in this sign you shall conquer, at the Milvian Bridge, then legalizes Christianity with the Edict of Milan. His mother, Helena, was a Christian. She influenced Constantine. Never baptized. He was baptized in his life, on his deathbed he was baptized. But he was devoted to his mother. And so the presence of Christianity, even at that point, into the royal court, the great enemy they had been, happens because of the actions and the faith of women. It's a story of influence, of changing. There's an old poem that I'd like to read by William Ross Wallace, at least one stanza. Blessing on the hand of women, angels guard its strength and grace. In the palace cottage hovel, oh, no matter where the place. Wood that never storms assailed it, rainbows ever gently curled. For the hand that rocks the cradle is the hand that rules the world. For the hand that rocks the cradle is the hand that rules the world. Perhaps we need to do more biblical study, find more evidence of the importance of women in being the birthers, bearers, nurturers, and guides in the faith. But even in what has remained, there are a lot of wonderful wonder women. And the people shall say, all women